Welcome. Welcome to all my parishioners of Grange, Milnthorpe, Arnside. Welcome also to any other visitors who might be looking at this broadcast. Under the provisions of the coronavirus regulations, I do celebrate Mass each day in private, with you and for you. Be assured of those prayers through the sacred Mass. We may be able to live stream those Masses in the near future. We're working at it. But for the moment, I'll reflect with you about the Sunday Mass readings each week. This Sunday is the 22nd of March, and it's the fourth Sunday of Lent. The first reading of the Mass reminds us that we have the Good Shepherd to guide us through any valleys of darkness. The choosing of David, the shepherd king, foretold the coming of Jesus, the Good Shepherd and King. At this time when our country shuts itself down and many are in isolation, let's ask the Lord to be our leader and Good Shepherd through these difficult times. Now, the country has been shut down by coronavirus. We're separated in body. There are no church gatherings. But we can keep together in spirit. We have a great duty to keep faith together during these anxious times. Now, the readings ask us to be children of light. We do this by coming to Jesus, who says, "I'm the light of the world." Of course, Jesus is not here physically today, but he is here spiritually. We will find Jesus, the light of the world, if we search for him. Search and you'll find. In focusing on Jesus, we remain close to each other. Coming to Jesus is like people gathering around a bonfire on a dark night. The one light gathers together and illuminates the faces. They become united in that one light. Indeed, we as Christ's faithful are to turn this time of isolation into a time of turning to God and each other. We're all, as it were, on a sort of extended retreat. Now, the blind man in the Gospel, and you'll have to read it yourself, I'm afraid. We have got Mass sheets out at the back of church. Do have your missal beside you, or take one of those Mass sheets. Our churches are open. The newsletters and the Mass sheets are available. The blind man in the Gospel of the fourth Sunday teaches us how we find the presence of Jesus and worship him. The blind man was literally in the dark, of course. We're in the dark in that we don't know the future, with the virus spreading. Jesus teaches us today through the Gospel. The Gospel says to us, God welcomes me. The first thing to note is that Jesus saw that blind man and his problem and is concerned for him. Jesus is concerned for us. Come to him. The next thing is, when we hear of the curing of the blind man, God wants to clear my vision. Jesus does something about the blindness of the blind man. He made a healing paste and told the blind man to wash at the pool. Jesus asks us to work at getting our inner vision clear. We might, for example, wash our souls in the sacrament of reconciliation, just as the blind man washed his face in the pool of Siloam. I'll be available in each of our churches at certain set times each week for anybody who wishes. The times are published in the newsletter. The second thing that comes up from the gospel is witness. The authorities cross-examine the former blind man in a hostile way. In talking about Jesus under pressure, he admits, he comes to the conclusion he must be a prophet. Insight and strengthening of faith comes from witness. So let's resolve to witness to and talk about Jesus as active in our lives at this time. Here we can, of course, use electronic communications and phones if we're in isolation. That strengthens our connection with Christ. Witness. And finally, the blind man was left alone and abandoned by the authorities. At that point, the man alone, Jesus came to find him, the gospel says. He is a true shepherd of souls. We may be isolated, but be sure Jesus comes to us to find us during this time and to remain with us. Perhaps our prayers during the long retreat that is ahead will be something like, Lord, lead me from any darkness of soul. Give me your inner light. The great hymn of Cardinal Newman, lead kindly light, lead thou me on. Our second prayer might be, lead me to believe more deeply in you, present for me. And the final one might be, lead me with all my heart to worship you. We then join the blind man at the end of the gospel, who worshipped God with his whole heart. May this time of dark uncertainty be a time of enlightenment within. May we find ever more deeply the presence of Jesus, who is the light of the world, shining deep within our hearts. And my thoughts and prayers are with you all at this time.